Hello, everybody. It's Thursday. You know what that means. Africa Thrive Live. I'm really excited about the conversations we are having today. So, my name is Naomi Kirungu. I am your host today. I am based in Nairobi. It's quite sunny after being gloomy yesterday. So, please let me know where are you tuned in from. Let me just adjust my camera. There we go. Let me know where are you tuned in from. Who are you? What business do you do? I'd like to get to read from you and get to hear from you. So like I said before, my name is Naomi. And before this session, we had, sorry, my camera seems, we had a poll that ran this morning. So we're just trying to find out around financing for business and funding for SMEs. So I wanted to get to know how has this been for you. So I'm really excited that we're able to do a live poll, and I'll be able to share the results from that today. So as we go ahead, so I'm really excited about this topic today. But like I said, I'd like to get to hear where you tuned in from and just get to learn more. If this is your first time interacting with AMI, allow me to introduce us to you. Yeah, so we exist to enable ambitious businesses from across Africa to thrive. And now we have a very simple mission. Our mission is to help as many SMEs as we can, help as many entrepreneurs as we can survive this crisis. Yeah, and for those who, even as economic activities begin to resume within economies, to just equip entrepreneurs with the capacity they need to sort of build successful businesses. So at this point in time, we are supporting entrepreneurs in 5 main ways. The first, allow me to quickly take you through that. So the first is the AMI Business Survival Bootcamps. So this is a free 2-week program where we take you through scenario planning, just to think of next steps, whether this crisis was a blessing in disguise for you, or whether it has actually made you to shut down or reduce your operations. So we help you sort of think of next steps. We take you through cash flow management. Yeah. So the second thing we do is AMI Survive to Thrive. So this program is a sort of a build up to the bootcamp, and we basically add more topics to it, and it's 6 months. So we look at customer trends. They've really changed. How do you identify new customer segments? We look at adapting your operations. We look at sort of managing your teams now that you have to do that remotely, and even health and safety for them. So we look at much more topics, and we sort of handhold you. And this, we have scholarships that are available thanks to our partners. So you could also just apply for a full paid scholarship into these programs. Yeah. So that's the second thing we do. The third, and one of my favorite, is we're very privileged that one of our co-founders is actually a psychologist. So every single morning for 30 minutes, he does a reflection and meditation session called Rise. And this is a fantastic way to start your day as an entrepreneur, because we have so many things that we carry, responsibilities, family. So it's an amazing way to sort of start your day. And we do that Monday through to Friday for 30 minutes for entrepreneurs, and it's free. Fourth, we have an amazing team that sits and we collect resources, funding opportunities, relevant news for entrepreneurs, and we put this in a weekly newsletter called Thrive. So you could always subscribe to our newsletter. And finally, last but not least, are these sessions that we hold every single Thursday at 12 noon East Africa time. That's 10 o'clock, I believe, West Africa time in Lagos, and 11 South Africa time. So we call them Africa Thrive Live Series. And the purpose of this conversation has always been to have conversations for entrepreneurs, by entrepreneurs. So we are always keen to sort of listen to you and see what is relevant to you, what do you want to hear, and then we rally up a team of experts around it. So this week, we got a lot of feedback. We want to hear more around financing and funding for our businesses. So that's the topic today, and we're really excited. But looking at the topic, we sort of sat as a team and thought, okay, financing is quite broad, very broad for business. So we thought, how about we have it in 2 segments? One segment, this one, where we'll talk about debt financing. And then the next segment, we'll talk about equity financing. I know they're serious topics, but we'll try and demystify them, make them as simple as we can, and try make finance a bit of fun, yeah, because we like these sessions to have a fun feel to it and demystify and simplify them in the best way we can. So it's good to see where you're tuned in from. Please keep those comments coming. I see Godwin, he is from Nigeria, and he's in the food industry, and he's tuned in from Facebook. So it's nice to have you, Godwin. Keep telling us, what do you do? These are great opportunities to network and get to meet different people from across the continent. So I see we have someone on YouTube. He's called Mpo Luza, and they're from South Africa. So it's nice to have you on. Keep telling us what you do, and at the same time, keep telling us what are some of the things that you like us to talk about. Like I said, today we are talking about financing, and we'll carry that through next week, where we talk about equity financing. Today we'll focus on debt, but keep your comments in the comment section, or just DM us. What are some of the topics you want us to cover? What are some of those things that are resonating with you? And like I said before, we launched a poll to sort of gauge where people are in terms of financing, and we'll get to discuss those results as we go. So in light of the fact that I say this, we like starting these sessions, and I say that we always want to hear from the entrepreneurs, because these sessions are designed for you. In as much as we'll rally experts around them, we always love hearing from you. So I'd like to invite one of the audience, people from the audience, one of our entrepreneurs, to go live with me. Tell us a bit about where this financing and funding sits for him as an entrepreneur who's trying to make a difference in this continent. So Ashley, help me welcome. I see today we'll have Yinka from Nigeria. And I like, since this is virtual, yeah, and you can't give me, we can't give hand claps and sort of drum rolls. So feel free to use the like button or any of the array of emojis around you to sort of encourage people. And yeah, so let's give emoji welcome to Yinka. Hello, Yinka, how are you? Maybe you can just introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and a bit about your business.
Okay, my name is Yinka Ojo Bolatito. I'm the MD of Quick Access. Quick Access, real estate trading, buy and selling of land in Nigeria. We are trying to solve the Go 11 in Nigeria, the UN Go 11. Thank you.
Okay, that's exciting. And Yinka, maybe you can tell us, I know I've seen you in these lives before. I've seen you in some of our programs. I see you do the meditation. I've seen you, you're really a fan of AMI. Maybe you can tell us, how has AMI supported you as an entrepreneur through this crisis?
Yes, it's a privilege to get to know AMI. I believe AMI is a blessing to us in Africa, because since AMI, even the last video I did, I noticed that I've had a rapid turnover of numbers of followers. More than 50% has increased. Apart from that, in my business, we now have a lot of toolkits. The toolkit that is available on the AMI is fantastic. Like the financial modeling, like the forecast, like even one of the program that we have been doing, like the rebooting business, major thing in Africa now, that the AMI is leading all of us to learn, and I believe that's going to is putting Africa on the greatness race. So there are so many. So many.
Yeah, thanks for that, Yinka. And by the way, we did not pay Yinka to say those nice things about us. And maybe you can acknowledge us. But thank you for the kind words. And we are actually excited that we are able to provide practical solutions for you. And so, Yinka, let's talk about the why we brought you in today, about what has your experience been, what have your struggles been as an entrepreneur, right? Trying to raise capital or trying to raise financing, and in particular, maybe debt financing. How has your experience been? What have you seen?
Yes, as an entrepreneur, you know that one of the major problem of the entrepreneur, especially the coming up one, is collateral. And some of the banks in Nigeria or in Africa, it is hard for them to finance a startup, because they don't even finance maybe brain work. They want to see, because of the structure in Africa, most banks cannot finance. They cannot just throw their money into unsecure area. So it's very hard for an entrepreneur, especially the startup, to a company like Apple may not be able to trend very well in Africa, starting without collateral. So it's a problem. Even managing stakeholders, if not for some of the idea that the AMIs are coming up with, COVID-19 will have crashed a lot of us in Africa. But managing stakeholders, debt financing, even equity financing, is a big problem in Nigeria. But government is trying to do a lot of things now, helping out in some areas of financing. But the debt financing really one of the issues right now, because a lot of people may not be able to meet up with their obligations. They may not be able to meet up with their obligation, and it is kind of hard to approach a commercial bank to finance your debt.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Yinka. And I think those are things we'll speak to around some of the experts we brought. They'll speak to what you've talked about, collateral, what do you do? And even for people like, say, women, for instance, who might not have, because of we know about how inheritance or stuff like that goes around in this continent, where so if you're a female businesswoman and you don't have access to capital, or even a male one for that instance. So we'll talk about that, and also what support they have in terms of not meeting your financial obligation now in this crisis. So thank you so much for joining us, Yinka, and thanks for making time. Yeah, so I'll still encourage us, for those people in the audience, just write your questions, write your comments for the people we have lined up. Today in particular, we are talking about debt financing, and then we'll talk about that later. So maybe Ashley, you will help me pull out Yinka so that we can move on. And thanks for creating time. Thanks for creating time, Yinka. Yeah. So like I said, I'll encourage you to keep your comments coming. Tell us, what has your experience been in terms when it comes to accessing finances from banks or any other institution. What has your experience been as an entrepreneur? And maybe we could speak to that. And what are you struggling with? Yeah. So in light of making these conversations, because we try and make them and speak from a point of view of being authentic and sort of speaking to the actual need of entrepreneurs. So we sat down with our team when we were preparing these sessions, and we thought it's actually good if I can bring in a co-host, our co-founder and CEO, Rebecca, because she has successfully raised financing for AMI, our business. So it would be good to have her join me, and we could sort of co-host these conversations, because I can bring in aspects of what I've seen or what other entrepreneurs are saying, and she could also bring in that point of view of her personal experience, which I think is in good light. Yeah, so help me welcome Rebecca. Like I said, we'll use the emojis as an alternative to the hand claps today. So welcome, Rebecca. Maybe Rebecca, I've introduced AMI, so maybe you could just introduce yourself in context of the topic we're discussing today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Naomi. It's great to be here. Hi, everybody. I love coming on Africa Thrive Live. Highlight of my week. So my name's Rebecca. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of AMI, and I have indeed managed to raise finance. It was painful and also fantastic for the business. It's allowed us to do all sorts of things that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So I'm really excited to be here today. I think, money is something that as an entrepreneur, we spend a lot of time thinking about. We're always thinking about how much we're making, how much we're spending, how much cash we have in the bank, how much we need to grow and realize the vision that we have. And, raising external finance really isn't for everyone. I think I want to make that clear. We're not saying today that everyone out there should be going to try and borrow from the bank. You must be comfortable as an entrepreneur. You must know your business. You need to know what's right for you, and whether finance is going to be right, and then what type of finance is right. So as you said, Naomi, today we're talking about debt, and we've got some lenders, some institutions that lend, who are going to who are going to be here to talk with us. Next week, we're going to talk about equity. So personally, for AMI, we raised equity because we were an earlier stage business. There was a lot of risk and we had big ambitions. We really wanted to grow. Banks, we probably couldn't have raised money from a bank at the time that we raised equity. So those are the kinds of questions we're going to be talking about today. And really excited to get stuck in.
Yeah, that's cool. And we did have a poll, and keep your comments coming in terms of what your experience has been. We'd love to read that and answer some questions you have. But we did have a poll to sort of just get people's perspective of, have they tried to raise money through debt? What has the experience been in terms of just that? I don't know if you're able to pull that to the screen, Ashley. Ashley, ladies and gentlemen, one day you will all get to meet her. She's the one who makes all this possible. Yeah. So I don't know if she's able to pull that up. If not, I can just read it from here. So we can see we had around 30 responses, and out of the 30, we asked, are you looking for a business loan? Over 20 have, only 5 have not. What is the loan for? So we asked, what are you using the loan for? Majority are looking for loans for even inventory and stock. And that's, we did ask if they're looking for loans to pay salaries, but a majority are saying it's for inventory and stock. How much money are people looking to borrow? So majority, around 18 of our participants are looking between $10,000 to $50,000, closely followed by below 10,000. So that's quite interesting. And finally, have you applied for relief finance? We have majority haven't. Yeah, so it might be keen to see why people have not. Is it that they don't know that they exist, or what could that be? So keep participating in the poll. Like I said before, at AMI, would like to continue to support you. Your success is our success. So if financing is a big thing, we want to get into the middle of it and help you get access to financing, like Rebecca said, to just unleash the potential of your business. So we'll keep that conversation going. But now, allow us to just introduce the guests. I'll do that one by one and in no particular order. So we have Keitumetse. I hope I pronounced your name right. You let me know. Lekaba, she's from South Africa. She's a funding specialist. She's an SME development and funding expert. She represents a company called Quartile Capital Holdings. And I like this. She likes to refer herself as, call me the business doctor. Yeah, so I like that, based in Johannesburg. So Ashley, help me welcome Keitumetse on.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, how are you? Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
Yeah, nice to see you. Tell us a bit more about yourself, your business, your organization, just in brief before we get to it.
Sure, you pronounced my name right. My name is Keitumetse. I am from Johannesburg, South Africa, from a company called Quartile Capital. We are a financial services company, and we mainly deal with SME funding and development, so we're specialists in that regard.
Yeah,
I'm an accountant by profession, so hence I landed in this space. We're passionate about SMEs and just SME development and the sustainability of SMEs. So
yeah,
for us, that's the epitome of our business, where we can help and assist SMEs, whether through development and funding and lending that we're going to speak about later. That is what we thrive on doing.
Okay, we are really keen to hear what's happening because you're representing South Africa. So we are keen to learn more about what's happening when it comes to finance and what it is there. You're most welcome. We invite our guest, Susan Situma. She's, and for the past 4 years has been head of SME working at Kenya PLC. She has over 4 years experience serving finding solutions like that, finding solutions for SMEs. And so help me welcome Susan. Like I said, thumbs up, all those things you're seeing there as drum roll. So Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Rebecca. Hi, I won't try to pronounce your name, but Naomi. Hi.
Hi, Susan.
Lekaba, I think is it. Yeah. Thank you very much, Naomi.
You're welcome. It's your brand. I'll borrow next time. I'll just put my logo behind us. So thank you. Please tell us what you do and SME.
All right. I can't hear you very well, Naomi, but I'm hoping you can all hear me very well. My name is Susan Situma. I look after the SME business at Absa Bank Kenya PLC. I'm also really passionate around SMEs like Lekaba and looking to see how do we support them, more so especially during this period. But I'm also a wife and a mother, which I'm proud of. I think for Absa Kenya during this period, we are really focused on just 4 things, just to see how do we make it easier for our customers to maneuver during this pandemic, and therefore thinking especially around SMEs who are the backbone of our economy. How do we support them? You talked about the relief programs, which we'll talk about later in this conversation. So focused on that, also focused on seeing how we support our frontline workers, health workers. We've been out there distributing protective equipment. We've also reached out to the police force because it's been raining, and we've given them some umbrellas out there to just help us keep safe. And also, we also realize a lot of Kenyans have been affected in one way or another, whether it's going through anxiety, stress, and therefore we've partnered with Minet Kenya, and we are offering a wellness care program that is toll-free. You can call and you can get advice. I'm sure most of the Kenyans would also know that we've contributed about 50 million to the COVID-19 fund, and that is being distributed just as part of the government efforts. And then lastly, just making sure that we look after the continuity of our business. So whether it's our staff, our customers coming through our areas, just to make sure that it's a safe environment. So thank you very much for welcoming us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Susan. I think Naomi is having some connectivity issues. So I'll step in for a moment. That's fantastic, Susan. Thank you so much. I think, Ashley, are you now going to introduce our next guest, or bring our next guest in? You can go ahead and do that. We've got Mary. Wonderful. Hi, Mary. Welcome. Mary, you're from Bank for Africa. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization?
Okay. Thank you very much, Rebecca and Naomi. I'm delighted to be in this forum today. I'm very passionate about growing business, and our ambition as the bank is to transform the bank to an SME bank up by the year 2021. BOA Bank Kenya is a part of a group, BMC Group. We're a Pan-African bank. We're in 17 countries with an ambition to be presented in the 55 countries in Africa. As a part of the group BMC, we're in 4 continents, and we also have a rep office in France. Looking at our SMEs, we have supported in restructuring the facilities for our SMEs due to the pandemic. And what we did is we actually went out and engaged each and every SME. We didn't wait for them to come to the bank. We went out to them and engaged them and accommodated them both in restructuring their facilities as well as availing facilities in terms of what they were looking at. Looking at the growth of the SMEs for us, we look at taking these SMEs to the region and into the 17 countries that we are in. That is a key ambition for us. And we work with the SMEs from the entry point, from SMEs with turnovers of less than 5 million to even bigger SMEs, and taking them and opening them into the networks within Africa.
And that's 5 million Kenya shillings, right, Mary?
5 million shillings.
Great. Not dollars. Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what we do is, and we understand that segment of SMEs will not have records. And as a part of the bank, what we do is work with them to even structure.
Can I interrupt you? Because I'm going to come to you in a minute to ask what types of SMEs you lend to. That's going to be our first question. Do you mind if I just bring in our other guest, because we're a little limited on time, and then I'll be coming back to you to ask about the type of SMEs that you lend to.
Okay then.
Thank you so much. Ashley, would you bring our next guest on as well? So we've got everyone here. Chioma joining us from Nigeria, from Access Bank. Chioma there? Yes, here she comes. Wonderful. Welcome, Chioma. Nice to have you on Africa Thrive Live.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Tell us just very briefly, if you would, a little bit about where you work and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Chioma Ogwo, and I currently head non-financial services at Axis Bank. I work with the Emerging Businesses Group. Axis Bank is a leading full-service commercial bank, and we operate through a network of over 670 branches and service outlets spanning 3 continents and 12 countries. And we have a customer base of over 30 million customers. Axis Bank today is the largest bank in Nigeria and Africa's leading bank in terms of customer base. For us at Emerging Businesses, we manage the bank's SME portfolio, and we have a customer base of over 300,000 MSMEs in our portfolio. And we, apart from managing the portfolio, we see ourselves as solution providers to these MSMEs, where they're business partners. And our solutions can take the form of financial or non-financial, and it's all aimed at helping their businesses grow. That's what we do in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Chioma. Well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge that we have another all-female panel today, which is wonderful. Often with finance, there are some cliches around finance, and often we hear more male voices, so it's wonderful. And quite, I think it was a bit of a coincidence, actually, but a very happy coincidence to have an all-female panel. So welcome, everyone. I think, I didn't do the math, but if we added up all the very impressive numbers that you shared about your reach and the number of businesses you interact with, I think we would have covered a large part of the continent. So we've got Kenya and East Africa covered, we've got West Africa covered, we've got South Africa covered. So really welcome to this conversation. Well, let's start then. First of all, I'd love to just understand what type of businesses you're looking to lend to. So just you could each share with us. First of all, it's interesting to know the size of business, and so that's kind of the criteria. But I'm also interested in what you look for in an entrepreneur. So maybe Mary, you had started to tell us about that. So would you kick us off? What type of businesses do you lend to at Bank of Africa?
Thank you, Rebecca. I think for Bank of Africa, we cut across all the sectors within our SME portfolios. And some of the key sectors that we're looking at is trade, education, real estate, construction, and transport. And we look even at the smallest SMEs, because for us, it's a journey that we take our SMEs, growing them from an emerging SME to a large SME and a corporate and to a regional corporate.
And so what kind of size, when an SME first comes to you, what type of size of loan might they be looking for? And what are they typically looking to borrow for?
They were looking for all sorts of loans. It could be working capital, it could be asset finance. Mm-hmm. And we give loans as little, even for SMEs, as 50,000 shillings, which is about $500. And these largely automated. We've structured the product, so at least we can give you a TAT within a day. You can actually work in the morning and have the money by evening to support your business. So for this, in terms of the requirements that we look at, we are not so strict in terms of the documentations like we would do for an established entity. We would work with the records, either the M-Pesa collections or the statements that they have on the bank account.
Okay, great. Chioma, tell us a bit. We hear a lot about entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs sometimes complain about banks. I'm not one of those entrepreneurs who complains about banks, but I have heard some of them occasionally complain that it's very difficult to get a loan from a bank and that sometimes collateral is required. Mary's just told us that isn't always the case. Tell us, what type of entrepreneurs are you looking to fund, and what other kind of requirements that you need as well? Is it true that you always need collateral?
Now, where do I start from? What kind of entrepreneurs are we looking to lend to? So for us at Axis Bank, we have a vast array of SMEs that we lend to. So we're not specific to a particular SME. So you can be in trade, you can be in services, it could be in health or education. We will lend to you. And we also have specific loan products for these different sectors. Now, the second question is, what do we look for? What's the criteria? So before we lend to you, there's certain things that we look out for. What are those things? First and foremost is capacity. And this is your cash flow. We need to be sure that your cash flow is sufficient for the loan that you're requesting for, because we don't want you to borrow and go under. So that's very important. Secondly, we look at your character. And character, we're talking about your integrity. What is the reputation of your company? You know, is your company in the habit of giving dot checks? All these things we look at. What is your credit report? What is your credit score? We look at all these things before we can give you a loan. And then we look at capital. So capital, we're looking at what have you invested in your business? This means that if your business fails, what do you have to lose? You have to show us that you believe in your own business. And so we now have we're now comfortable enough to also believe with you in your business. And then finally, we're looking at collateral, which you had spoken about. Now, I put collateral last because once you hear about collateral, which the MSME had spoken about, people are thinking of legal mortgage. But things have changed now, and thankfully so. So I know that in Nigeria and in a lot of African countries, collateral is not restricted to that. So we can take from you movable collateral. For example, if you want to buy equipment, the equipment that you're purchasing from us, or we're giving you a loan for, can serve as the collateral. Also, we can ask for a personal guarantee. That is a collateral. So collaterals are not, in the strict sense, what they used to be, and not as tough as they used to be.
Not owning your property.
Yes.
Papers. Okay, so there's some flexibility around collateral. From Chioma's sharing with us, Mary's shared that Bank of Africa will make loans as small as $500. So we're not excluding small businesses. Susan, what type of businesses do you lend to at Absa? What are you looking for?
So I think a little bit of what Mary and Chioma has said. We are able to lend to businesses. I think within our SME segment, we've segmented it to go all the way to $500 million in Kenya shillings. And therefore, the business has at least to have been in business for 2 to 3 years. And the way we look at the period that you've been in business, because we do know for small businesses, they probably start them at their house, they start receiving money. In Kenya, they get M-Pesa, or maybe you go to a SACCO and you open a bank account. So as long as you can prove that you've actually started the business earlier than you registered it, and you finished that period, we're able to lend to you. Ideally, what we then look for, and we don't have a sector that we are saying, no, we don't want to go to this sector. Probably we'll get into that question once we look at how COVID has affected the lending now. But we are open. We do have relationship managers, business bankers that are able and equipped to find out from the financials that you present to us, how much you can be able to afford. So we are guided by how much the business is able to afford to give a certain amount. And we are very interested in making sure that whatever business that you're doing, whether registered or not, that actually you're doing something that is legal, not illegal in that respect. So we are
okay, that's a good place to start. Okay, so businesses need to be legal. They need to be able to afford to repay. And that's a really critical point, isn't it? It sounds obvious, but I guess businesses, entrepreneurs, we need to be able to demonstrate to you as bankers that we can afford to repay whatever we borrow. There might be some flexibility around collateral, but we need something to be able to reassure the bank that they're going to get their money back. And sounds like there's quite a lot of flexibility on sector and size of business across your banks.
Yeah. Rebecca, maybe that we do have an unsecured lending facility of up to Kenya shillings 10 million for SMEs.
10 million, just give us that in dollars, that's about $100,000.
It's
right?
about $100,000 US. And from the poll that Naomi was talking about, you find that some of the businesses can actually be able to get access to this kind of money that they can use for working capital.
Great. Okay, that's super. Thanks, Susan. That's very helpful. Keitumetse, tell me, so we've heard a lot about what type of entrepreneurs and SMEs the banks can lend to. Debt finance isn't for everyone, is it? Tell us what kind of SME should not go to the bank for a loan, in your experience?
I think what we normally do when SMEs come to us for debt finance or for funding, there's also quite a very thin line between needing finance and selling your products. So often when SMEs are not making money, the first thing that they want to run to is funding, where sometimes all it needs is product selling, and he needs assistance in the non-financial support that Chioma was speaking about, which is some of the development work that we do. So we'll then support the SME with some non-financial support, just to assist them in how to sell and how to get your product out into the market, and how to make money from what you are currently sitting with, before you go and borrow the money and earn and have additional charges like interest and all the other cumbersome things that come with debt finance. So we try and look at the business holistically and just try and assess where the gap is between the SME having their product or their service and them not selling to the specific customer. So some SMEs, I think, with a little bit of non-financial support, they can shy away from getting funding.
It's a good point, isn't it? That finance isn't a solution to a bad business. If you're not making money, if your business model isn't working, getting a loan is not gonna help you out. That's just gonna give you more of a burden.
And also, I think another thing that SMEs miss is that in getting debt financing, you need to be able to pay it back. So whatever you're using the finance on, you need to be able to make money with whatever you're getting with the funding. So you need to generate additional money so that you can pay back. So that's why I think.
What are some of the best? Give us a couple of examples of some of the best kind of scenarios or cases where. So let's say if this business landed on your desk, you would be enthusiastic about lending to them. We'll give us a few examples. Maybe Keitumetse, you can give us one. Maybe Susan, you give us one.
So for us, we get excited when a business has a contract or they have a valid contract, a long-term contract where revenues are guaranteed. It gives us a little bit of comfort from a risk perspective of repayment of the debt that the SME will be able to pay back the funding that they're getting from us. So that really excites.
So for example, you might have a business that's got a big contract, but they need to borrow to be able to get the stock they need, for example, to service that contract.
Or even assets to start servicing the contract. So a lot of the SMEs come to us looking for asset funding to start servicing certain contracts in corporates.
Okay, so you've got a contract. You've got a contract, and you can make money. That's a good scenario for borrowing from a bank. Awesome.
That's a good start.
Can you give us another example?
Yeah. I think for us, we get really excited when we get an entrepreneur who knows why they need the money, right? They've done their research. They figured out this is what this money will do for my business, and this is why I need the loan. So they can even show you. I mean, if I get this money, I'll be better than my competition with 1, 2, 3. So they really know what they want to do with the money and they're ready to go. So we can work out then how do we support you get it.
That's a great point. It's about having a business plan, not just a piece of paper, but understanding your vision for your business and understanding how finance fits in. Yeah, that's a great point. Wonderful. I just want to encourage everyone who's watching. Thank you so much for your comments. Please do send questions. This is your chance to grill a banker, right? Normally it's the other way around. The bankers are asking you tough questions. This is your chance to ask the bankers tough questions. So please do send your questions through. I see we've got a few. I'm going to ask some of these in a moment, but please keep sending them in. I think the key question on our minds right now is, we're in a global pandemic. We're in a global economic slowdown. Times are really tough for SMEs. There's all sorts of reasons why SMEs need finance right now. And there's all sorts of factors that are affecting, I would imagine, the lending criteria for banks. Could you tell us, maybe, Mary, why don't you kick us off? How have things changed for you as a bank, given the COVID crisis? How has that changed, if at all, your lending criteria? Are you making decisions differently? Are you requiring different kind of requirements? And what's your advice to entrepreneurs seeking finance during this time?
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. I think looking at our portfolio and what has happened during the COVID-19, we've seen some of the sectors that have been largely affected. And this could be sectors like tourism, where the revenues dropped down immediately from day one in terms of the turnovers. But do we tell these SMEs to take a walk? No. What we've done as a bank is we've evaluated where they are. They've been customers of the bank, and what support we can actually give them in terms of even advancing more loans for them to stay afloat during this period of time. In terms of other segments have emerged within the SME segments, areas that are not performing as well because of the demand of some of the items that have come and requirements to support the fight for COVID-19. Some of them are in the manufacturing of food items and the PEPs, and also for food. And we've seen a lot of work and contracts, people obtaining from the government entities to supply. And we've been able to support these SMEs based on these receivables. So for now, we are keeping the terms and policies as they are. What we are doing is we are working closely with these SMEs to ensure that they continue to survive and to run their businesses as well. We're also running trainings with some of these SMEs in terms of leadership and management, just to see how do they fight through this crisis period going forward.
Great, thank you, Mary. So, so criteria is unchanged at Bank of Africa, and a particular focus on supporting the companies that you are already banking and lending and borrowing from you. Chioma, what about at Access Bank? How have things shifted for you? And what would your advice be to entrepreneurs who are looking for finance at this time? Should they come to you?
Okay, so at Access Bank at the moment, we are actively lending. And, we're doing this because we recognize that, COVID-19 has affected the world economy. And, SMEs contribute so much to every economy. So, for example, in Nigeria, we have 41.5 million SMEs, and they contribute 48% to our GDP. They make up 96% of our private sector. And they also employ 85% of our labor force. So there's a lot that they do. And for us to get out of this COVID-19 mess, we need, in the economy, we need them to help us with this. So we are actively lending to them. And in response to the pandemic, we've rolled out some loan products to assist businesses that we've identified as resilient. And, these loan products are quick, they're easily accessible, and they're affordable. And they can be done remotely through the app. Also, we've looked at our books. We've looked at the SMEs that borrowed from us before the pandemic. And we've seen that, of course, it has affected them in some way. And we have incentives for these SMEs. So, incentives include moratoriums, interest rate reductions, and also trainings for them to help them get out of this situation. For a lot of them that we see that, before the pandemic, they didn't have a lot of presence online. So we are pushing out for them, we've partnered with people that can help them, if it's to develop their websites, if it's to create online presence. We're actively doing that for them. So that's what we're doing. That's part of what we're doing to help the SMEs at this time with the pandemic.
That's great, Chioma, and I think it just reinforces this point that whether times are good or tough, a loan isn't always the only answer. We've also been running, it seems like training is a bit of a theme. We've also, obviously, as a training organization, been running our boot camps, our Survive to Thrive programs. And I think my advice to entrepreneurs, as an entrepreneur myself, is before looking at finance, to go line by line through your P&L and look at every single expense. Is it necessary right now? What can you strip out costs as soon as possible? Because that's going to help further down the line. I'm interested. I'm just going to read out a few of the questions. Oh, wonderful. I think Naomi's coming back to help me out. That's great. Welcome back, Naomi. I'm just going to read out a couple of the questions. Some of them are talking about specific banks. I think just for the sake of the organization, we'll generalize a little bit. We've got one question. Oh, I've just lost. Yeah, here it is. Meshimiwa, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, says, customer with BOA, and currently at a crisis with salaries, urgently need funding. I don't think we don't need to necessarily speak to that exact case, but I'm interested, Mary or Susan, either of you, what entrepreneurs do if they just urgently need cash? Is that a good time to borrow from the bank? Are you looking at those kind of cases? I know our ideal case we've said to lend to is someone who's got a contract and wants to grow. What about businesses that are just struggling to pay salaries? Should they be looking at taking out a loan? And what advice would you have to businesses like that? Mary, do you want to go first? Or I can see Susan talking. Susan, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. And quite a good question. And we have seen quite a bit of entrepreneurs have been affected. Actually, not. I think each of us has been affected in one way or another, right? Whether as an individual or a business. What we have done at Absa Kenya is that we are actually giving relief payments. And during the relief payment conversations, we have found entrepreneurs want to stock a little bit more, because they don't know about how long the pandemic is going to last. So they just want to make sure that they can get a little bit more money. Some are importing from China, so there's a manufacturing period required for their goods. So they're coming and saying, okay, can you support me even as you give me this relief to get a short-term loan? So we are supporting our customers during for those kind of requests. We are not within our unsecured parameters. You find the requests are not so big. So we are able to review that, or it could be that already borrowing with us, maybe you had headroom in your securities if you had a bigger line. But we are supporting customers during this period and working with them, and also working with them through that discussion. Like Rebecca, you said, do you need it now? Must you? What type of product do you want to stock, right? It could be something that's not moving very fast and could tie up your capital, and you don't know how long this will play out. So quite an important thing to just have that conversation with the client. And I think important to also know that we have a platform called Timiza as Absa, and you can get quick funds through that platform. Let's say you're a trader, you're looking for money to probably buy your goods from the market and sell, and then pay back in the evening or the next day. We have a platform called Timiza that you can actually go to and get that support as well. So we are open for SMEs looking for additional funding during this period.
Thanks, Susan. I just want to go to Naomi since you're back. Naomi, do we have time to take a few more questions? Will you? I'll lean on you to tell us when we need to make closing remarks.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. I hope I'll convince you to be my permanent co-host for these sessions. You've done such a great job. Yeah, we do have like 8 more minutes left. Maybe we can take in questions. I know the questions coming in are quite personal. I guess the reason being these are different markets, so people are addressing them to certain people. Let's take one for Keitumetse. Mpo from YouTube is asking, what's your turnaround time? Maybe you can speak about it more generally, but what's your turnaround time to approve and fund a purchase order, and what's your interest rate? Maybe speak about that process more generally.
All right. So our turnaround time is generally 7 to 14 days. And depending on how quickly the SMME also can give us information, which can be much quicker than 7 days if we have all the required information from the specific businesses. So our turnaround is 7 to 14 days and can be shorter. And what was the second question?
Interest rate.
Interest rate.
So we
interest
do
rate.
Development funding. So depending on the funds that we have internally, we do anything from 0 to a prime +2. So we do have where we are funding at a 0% interest rate because we are a development fund. So we do have some funding that we cater to SMEs that deserve based on merit, obviously, and based on the businesses and what we've assessed in that specific business. We will tailor make the interest to suit each SME accordingly.
Wow. Okay, that's great. Chioma, maybe you can take one from Nigeria. Yinka is asking, I'd like Chioma to explain what unsecured loans mean in Access Bank. What percentage of Access Bank loan is unsecured loan? Maybe you could speak about it more generally as well.
Okay, so unsecured loans are loans that we don't necessarily ask for collateral. And collateral, as I said, is in the sense of what people look at title documents. So we can give you a loan based on your cash flow. And your cash flow will serve as your collateral. So that is like an unsecured loan because we can see from your books that you can afford this loan that you're requesting. So those are the unsecured, that is what unsecured loans means. We're not asking you for brick and mortar collateral, but your cash flow works as your collateral. And the second part of the question was?
What it means for Access Bank, what percent of the bank is unsecured?
What percentage of Access Bank
that makes sense?
Is unsecured?
Is unsecured.
I'm not sure what he's asking here, but we can give you up to about 3 million naira unsecured loans, and 3 million naira is about $7,000 unsecured.
Okay, that's good to know. I guess I can take a question for Mary as a final one. Samuel is asking Mark Scientific. So he has a farm in Nairobi. He does radiation safety. Why is it hard for the bank to support asset financing without a collateral? I know Chioma has talked about how banks are now demystifying what collateral means. Mary, I don't know if you have anything to add for that question.
Thank you for the question. We can actually do asset finance as on a standalone without any other additional collateral. The asset that we are financing, we will take it as the security for what the customer is borrowing. And also just to speak about collateral, as a bank, there's 2 key partnerships that we are bringing on board to be able to support SMEs that don't necessarily have any collateral. One of them is African Guarantee Fund and IFC, and we expect to do much more to support SMEs in that space. And also just to answer on the earlier question by Rebecca, in terms of the supporting SMEs for relief, we are currently supporting SMEs to meet their urgent needs, including salaries as well as statutory payments, which are key to keep the businesses alive. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Mary. I see we only have 4 minutes left and questions are still coming. So I'd advise if you have any particular question for either of the guests who join us today, I believe you can forward those through their social media. So Absa Bank Kenya, we have Barclays Bank of Africa Kenya, Chioma Access Bank, and Keitumetse Q Capital, I believe, is your handle. So maybe, ladies, before you go, I'd just like for you to give sort of like closing remarks, any words of advice for entrepreneurs, anything you could sort of, if there's one thing you'd like them to remember at the end of this conversation, maybe you could share that. And thank you so much for taking the time. Mary, would you like to go first?
Okay. My parting shot for the entrepreneurs is, for us, finance, you should treat us as your partners. Like what Susan said, we like engaging entrepreneurs who really understand their business. It makes it very easier because we are the people sitting on the inside trying to justify your request. Experience is key. If you're starting any business, you should start something that you're well versed with. And we like that when we are looking at the proposals as well. Cash flow is key for any business, even in your business plan. When you're bringing on board a new idea, we'd like to know what cash flows are going to be generated from the business that you're undertaking, more so than even the collateral session of it. As a Bank of Africa, like I said in my opening remarks, we are very passionate about SMEs, and our ambition is to transform the bank to an SME bank in the next 2 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Mary, and thanks for joining us. I believe you can still write to Mary directly on her LinkedIn, and you could follow them on social media. So thanks for taking time. Susan?
Yeah. I think for me, my parting shot to SMEs is we really resonate with you as Absa Bank in terms of what you're going through. And we have put out their programs to support you, same way AMI is doing in terms of having a bootcamp. So we are running mentorship and coaching sessions, which are more one-on-one, and we can be able to find what advice for you. If you're looking for debt or equity, I would advise you to just think through your plans right now, look at your cash flows, think through what leverage can you have with your suppliers. Maybe you can actually ask for some extended period so that you can use their money as working capital. You can talk to your landlord, find out, can they bring down some rent for you? Just ways of making sure that you stretch your shilling right now. So I'm really praying that we'll be able to get through this and that your business will survive. Important to think through the continuity of your business and sustainability of your business after this pandemic. So I'm hoping you can also look at our pages at Absa and see what we have upcoming for SMEs. So I really wish you well and God bless. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Susan. Chioma, would you like to go next?
So my parting words would be, contrary to what people believe, banks are ready and willing to lend. We're happy to lend. That's why we're in business. And my advice to anybody that's seeking capital at this time is, first and foremost, decide on what it is you want. Would you want to go the way of equity, or would you want to go the way of debt finance? You have to decide that first and foremost. And after you've decided that, you need to ensure that you have put your structures in place. So what do I mean by structures? If your company is not registered, you have to get it registered, because nobody's going to give you a business loan on a personal account. You need to be sure that you have the necessary approvals for whatever sector it is that you belong to. So for example, in Nigeria, if you belong to manufacturers, you need to get approval from the Standard Organization of Nigeria. So you need to ensure that you have that in place. Most importantly, also keep good financial records. Limit your cash transactions. You need to pass your transactions through the financial services so that we can track it when you actually do need financing. And maintain a good credit report. We're not going to give a loan to someone that has a bad credit report. And put in your application, and it will be given. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Chioma.
thank you for so much for that, Chioma. Keitumetse, would you like to go next?
Thank you so much. I think my parting shot for SMEs is that, also for us, this has been a time where we've really had to dig deep into businesses and look at sustainability of each business that is currently in our books. So I think with everyone going through the COVID time and going through this tragic time for SMEs, also a time to just plan ahead and plan on how you are going to get back to where you were before COVID. and come and speak to guys like us, come and speak to Quartile Capital, not only for financial advice, but also for non-financial advice. And also just to go back to what all the other speakers were saying, cash flow management and financial records are a key in each business, because cash is really king in every single business in all the SMEs. So start there, start keeping your records, try and keep it clean. I know it's very difficult for SMEs to keep records clean, but cash flow management, financials and management accounts, also dig deep into your business where you can explain where your business is going in the next 12 months. So look at COVID, look at pre-COVID, in COVID, and post-COVID. So that'll be my parting shot.
Wow. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Keitumetse.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you so
I think my biggest takeaway for this has been almost like you just can't throw money, Rebecca, at a bad business or a bad model, and also the fact that we can't reiterate how important it is to keep records in the best way we can. Yeah. So I'd like to hear from the people watching. Tell us, what has your biggest takeaway been? What are you taking home? We hope these sessions add value to you. Rebecca, do you have anything to say as we close?
No, I think, I mean, it's just, that's come through so strongly, hasn't it? That need to really understand, why do I need money, and what would I do with it, and how do I use money to make more money? So I would just a quick plug for AMI if I can, to say that if you haven't been on our boot camp, please do, because it answers so many of these questions. It will help you really understand your cash flow, where you can strip out cost, and get yourself ready for that conversation with the bank if that's where you're headed. I did think it was really encouraging and exciting, really, to see these kind of large banks from around the continent say very clearly that they are lending and that they want to talk to SMEs and that they're here to be our partners. So I would encourage all of us out there to hold them account to that. Go talk to them and you know, let's find out if that's really true. Let's go talk to them, and if we need finance, get our books in order and then be ready to go and have that conversation. I also just wanted to say, Naomi, that obviously, as we've said, debt finance is not for everyone. And if you're an entrepreneur with an earlier stage business or a riskier business and you're more interested in equity finance, please join us next week. We've got a really exciting lineup of investors from across the continent.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Rebecca. That was going to be what I said next. Finance is complex in itself. So we sort of had to break it up in bite-sized pieces. And it's great to see that these are conversations entrepreneurs wanted to have to let us have. So keep your comments coming, continue to DM us and email us in regards to what you want to hear. So next week we'll be talking about equity financing, and like Rebecca said, we'll try and demystify it and make it uncomplex. And the thing is, with these conversations, they tend to set to sort of bring out more questions at the end rather than answers. I could see a lot more questions coming as we end. So we are actually looking at, if you are interested, having a paid program around financing for entrepreneurs and how to go about it. So if that's something that's of interest to you, please write to us. My email is naomi@African Managers. So just write to us if this is something that we need to sort of go at in depth. That's my email on the screen. So just continue to write to us and give us feedback and comments. So just like Rebecca said, if you want to plug into any of the existing programs we have, the way we continue to support entrepreneurs, simply go to our website, africanmanagers.org/together. And Rebecca, it was great having you. I'll try and convince you to stay on throughout Africa Thrive Live. It was really good having a co-host as part of these sessions. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Until next time, goodbye. Keep safe and take care of yourselves. Bye.